by Sinclair Smith.
Katie Shaw gazed out of her window at the stars shimmering in the sky.
There's a saying that when you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. I'll be 17 in a few days, and I want my life to be different. I don't want to be quiet Katie, the one guys talk to only when they need homework answers or a pencil or a piece of paper. I want life to be exciting, and I want a boyfriend who's wonderful. He'll be charming and gorgeous, and he won't want to spend loads of time with the guys. He'll want to be with me all the time.
Katie had forgotten another saying. Be careful what you wish for. You just might get it.
Excuse me. Hey, excuse me. Hey, you watch it.
No, you watch it. Why didn't I open my mouth? Because I'm just too tired.
Katie had been awake, tossing and turning for most of the night. Insomnia was a condition that plagued her all too frequently. It would visit her sometimes for 2 or 3 nights until she thought she'd go crazy if she didn't get some sleep. Katie had learned that if you stay awake through the night, you get plenty of time to think. Plenty of time to brood about where you wanted your life to go and where it was really going. She'd always thought that as soon as she became a teenager, her life would be transformed somehow and take on a new sparkle. Now that she was turning 17 tomorrow, she was beginning to worry about that sparkle. What was taking it so long?
Never mind. You just moved here. You're in a new school. This is the golden opportunity you've been waiting for, to be the person you've always wanted to be. But who is that?
Hello there. You're new here, aren't you?
In the short time she'd been at Warren High, Katie had more than noticed Jason Miller, with his thick, sandy brown hair, lean, muscular arms, and amazing brown eyes. She'd hoped to get to know him very well.
So, how do you like Warren High?
Oh, it's great. I mean, everything's great. Just great. There's my locker. It's right over there. Bye. Oh, you really blew that one, Katie. If he ever talks to you again, it'll probably be to ask you what planet you come from.
Wow, are you taking all those home? You must really love to study. I've been meaning to introduce myself. I'm Raquel Martinez.
Oh, I'm Katie Shaw. You're in my home room.
Yeah.
I thought your name was Rachel.
Rachel to the teachers, maybe, but I think I'm more of a Raquel. That's what all my friends call me. So, you're new here. Are you getting to know everybody?
I guess.
Listen, I'm having a get-together on Friday. Why don't you come? It'll be nice to have a new face in the crowd.
Well, sure. Thanks.
Great. Well, I'll be talking to you.
Okay.
Bye. Sandy, wait up!
Why did I say I'd go to her house? Was I crazy? What will I have to talk about with her friends? Maybe I can say I'm sick. Yeah, that's it. When the time comes, I'll say I don't feel well and can't go. Wait a minute. What am I doing? Being safe, never taking a chance. Katie Shaw, you're going to that party. You're going and you'll have a good time. Your life is gonna change.
Later, on her way home on the school bus, Katie gazed out of the window and sighed. She wished she didn't live so far out of town. Her bus was on the least populated route, the one that ended at Ear Howell Creek. According to the Tipler twins, Katie's nearest neighbors and the only others from her school who lived in Ear Howell Creek, the house Katie and her parents had just moved into had been abandoned for years and was haunted. The Tipler twins were so sly and mean-spirited that Katie didn't take much notice of them, but she had to admit that the house did look spooky. Her dad had said it needed a bit of work. When Katie saw it, she thought it needed knocking down and rebuilding from the ground up. No one had lived there for about 4 years. The paint was peeling off the outside boards, and one of the shutters was hanging loose. There were bats nesting in the attic, and the place was full of spiders. They cleaned out the vermin and painted the inside, but late at night, Katie thought she heard noises in the walls that sounded like rats scratching. As soon as the weather warmed up enough, her dad said he'd hire some help and start work on the outside of the house. A new coat of paint and some minor repairs would make all the difference, Katie told herself. Then she'd forget all about the house ever looking scary.
Sleet and rain, rain and gloom, gloom and doom. Happy birthday to me.
The drizzle that had started when Katie had left school had given way to an unrelenting downpour. It wasn't exactly her birthday yet. She'd been born at 1 minute past midnight, so technically her birthday was tomorrow. Katie reached out to stroke Bopper, the elderly basset hound who was lying next to her on the rug.
I guess you don't feel much like dancing at your age, right, Bopper? You'd rather snooze.
Go ahead, Al. We're hanging on your every word.
Yeah, it says here, a guy left his office yesterday afternoon without so much as a word to anybody, broke into his boss's car, and went tearing down Main Street doing 20 miles an hour over the speed limit.
Oh.
When the cops caught him and asked why he did it, he said it was because he'd got personal problems. That's right, personal problems.
What is this world coming to?
To Katie's parents, the idea that even mildly irresponsible behavior was the result of personal problems was about the same as saying you were growing a third eye in the middle of your forehead. In the Shaw family, things had to be neat and easy to follow. Katie hadn't discussed anything involving an internal crisis with her parents in years.
It's not that they're not nice, good people. They are. It's just that everything's so tidy and ordered, and I want more than that. I want romance and excitement and just more.
Deep inside her, a voice seemed to whisper, "And you're going to get it, too."
Katie, what's going on? You're wearing out the rug, pacing up and down like that.
Oh, sorry, Dad. I'm just thinking.
Something on your mind, dear? Are you worried about buying some new clothes for school?
No, there's nothing particular on my mind. Yes, there is. There's a lot on my mind. I know that something's going to happen to me soon, something extraordinary. I know it as surely as I know you'll never eat peas with your knife, Mom.
Suddenly Katie felt very sleepy and strangely off balance. She pressed her hands to her temples.
Excuse me, I think I'll skip dinner and try to get some sleep.
Oh.
I'm awfully tired. I think I can feel one of those headaches coming on.
Oh.
Night.
Good night.
Katie changed into a nightgown and got into bed, pulling the covers close under her chin. She felt so lightheaded she prayed that sleep would come soon. It did. Only moments passed before Katie was floating inside that brief window of space between waking and dreaming. The noise she was hearing sounded far away at first, but it was coming closer and closer. And then Katie was outside. She couldn't remember coming downstairs, and yet here she was. She felt like she was floating a few feet above the ground, yet she could see that her feet were still touching the worn wooden boards of the porch. Whoever had ridden the motorcycle had parked it already. It stood by the elm tree in front of the house, a huge, menacing black beetle of a machine. Katie couldn't see anyone, and she felt her apprehension growing, sending prickles of fear up her spine to the back of her neck. Then he stepped out of the shadows, and Katie completely forgot her fear. He was terribly good-looking. His thick, dark hair was windblown from the ride, and he had very dark eyes that seemed to look right inside you. He wasn't tall, but he was extremely muscular. It wasn't his looks that made the impact, though. It was something about him. He was hypnotic. He leaned back against the tree and measured her up and down with a frank, undisguised stare.
Hi.
Did your motorcycle break down?
No.
Well, why'd you stop?
I'm looking for something.
What? Where are you from?
Well, what's the matter? I'm here now. Well, you sure are a pretty girl. You don't know how pretty, do you? Oh, I can tell. You keep your nose in a book, and you dress real sensible, and you're always a good girl. That's the way everyone thinks you are. But there's a lot more inside. Inside, you're sick and tired of being Little Miss A+. You want something else. But you're not sure what it is. I can help you find it. And I can help you get it, too.
I don't even know you.
Oh, my name's Heath Granger, Katie. And you're gonna get to know me. I already know you better than you'd expect. I know you real well.
You know, I'm beginning to feel like I know you, too. It usually takes me a little while to stop feeling shy with guys, but not with you.
Well, you see, Katie? I knew you were shy. And you know what? You don't have to be shy anymore. I'm gonna help you find out what a terrific girl you are. Beautiful hair. Beautiful girl. Hey, and I like your dress.
Dress? I'm not wearing a dress. I've been standing here talking to a guy I don't even know and wearing my nightgown.
Katie suddenly realized that when she'd gone to bed, only moments ago, the night was rainy and cold, but now the sun was shining, and a warm summer breeze was blowing a white, lacy sundress around her legs. When she looked up again, Heath had vanished.
Katie? Katie? Come on. You're gonna be late for school.
What? Oh, it's 7:15. Oh, it can't be. How weird. I've never slept this long before. Wow. It's no wonder I overslept. What a guy. What a dream. Too bad it went away so quickly. A few more dreams like that, and I bet I won't have trouble sleeping anymore.
Most mornings, Katie dressed with her mind on automatic pilot. Her wardrobe consisted almost entirely of tailored skirts and shirts, so she could practically get dressed in the dark. She started to pull her hair back and fasten it with a plain brown clip.
Beautiful hair. Beautiful girl. I never wear my hair loose, except when I go to bed. Why not? I'm afraid I'd feel silly. It's not like I'm the femme fatale type. But then, who am I? The quiet, serious type? Well, not today.
Katie shook out her pale gold hair, then scrunched it with her fingers to make the curls stand out. She looked very different. She felt different, too.
What's this? Happy birthday, Katie, from Mom and Dad. Funny. I'd almost forgotten it was my birthday.
She pulled a tiny gold chain with a filigree pendant from the box and wondered what she could wear that would set it off. Then she remembered a vivid blue sweater dress an aunt had given her that she'd put away because she thought it was just not her. But today everything seemed very different.
Hey, who's this here? Can this be Katie Shaw? Where have you been hiding yourself, girl?
I guess I just couldn't hide from you any longer, Freddie. I can't believe I'm flirting with a guy. Not that I care about impressing Ready Freddie, but he never so much as looked at me before.
See you after the game.
Uh-oh, look who's coming. Hi, Jason.
Well, hi, Katie. You look terrific. Is that a new dress or something?
Something. I just haven't worn it before.
Well, I'm glad you did. Want me to walk you to homeroom?
Sure. You bet I do. Thought you'd never ask.
As the day went on, Katie was more and more convinced this was the most unusual day of her life. People who had never noticed her before spoke to her, and Katie answered them back without having to search painfully for words as she usually did. Questions, comments, even snappy comebacks popped into her mind as if by magic.
What's happening? Something's definitely different, and it can't be just because of my hair and my dress. It's also incredible how to pinch myself to see if I'm dreaming. That's it. The dream. Heath said he'd help me find myself. I know it's crazy to believe it, but I have to see Heath again. I just have to.
When Katie arrived home from school that day, her mother was curled up on the couch in the living room. She was so absorbed in the book she was reading that she didn't notice Katie tiptoe over and peer at the title.
Love's raging passion?
Hey, I'd like some of that. You shouldn't sneak up on people like that.
Sorry. How come you're home so early?
I stopped by to check on our hotel reservations and drop off a check at the travel agency. Your father and I are long overdue for a vacation, you know.
Eureka! I'll have the place to myself for a couple of weeks.
Where are you planning to go? Why, you know, Katie. We'll go to that little resort in Florida where we always go.
Every year. That's right. Why go anywhere else?
Katie, dear, I've been thinking. You haven't bought any new clothes in a long time. Here, take my credit card. Go over to the mall one day after school and find yourself something. Oh, and get some new shoes, too.
It's amazing. Today guys flirt with me, and now my mother hands over her credit card. Is this for real?
Oh, but dear, be sure to buy something nice. Nothing too wild. That sweater dress your Aunt Charlotte bought for you is a trifle too, clinging.
This is for real, all right. Okay, Mom.
Later that night, Katie lay on her bed poring over some fashion magazines that she'd bought for the very first time that day. But her thoughts kept returning to Heath.
I really don't think I'd be doing this if it weren't for Heath. I've never gotten excited about clothes, or even imagined I'd have the nerve to wear some of the things I'm thinking of buying.
Not that Katie had had her eye on anything particularly risque. It was just that until yesterday, she'd considered anything except a tailored skirt and blouse too daring for her to wear at school. But not now. As she got into bed, she said a little prayer.
Oh, be there, Heath. Be there in my dreams.
But that night, Katie didn't meet Heath in her dreams. That night she dreamed she was in school, wearing a new dress she'd bought. She thought she looked very glamorous. But as she walked down the hall, people stopped and stared.
Katie Shaw, take off that makeup.
Who do you think you are? Where's your brown skirt and sweater, Katie? Who told you you could wear your hair like that? Makeup looks awful.
This is too tight. Where's your homework, Katie? You should be in the library.
Shame on you!
Katie turned faster and faster until she was getting dizzy. The mob had been closing in on her, but now they stopped. Something made them stand still and put their hands to their mouths. They stared at her with wide, frightened eyes.
Oh no! Don't come near me!
Horrible! Horrible!
Hey, man, she's
Katie stood alone, facing a wall that was covered in mirrors. She saw her reflection repeat itself dozens of times in the glass. She wasn't wearing the maroon and black outfit she'd put on before she left the house. She was wearing a white, lacy sundress, except it wasn't white anymore. Katie was covered with blood from head to toe. Heath didn't show up when Katie tried taking a nap the next day after school. He didn't show up in her dreams that night either. But Katie was having too much fun in her real life to spend time thinking about Heath. Jason Miller had been paying a great deal of attention to her. He hadn't asked her out yet, but Katie was sure he would soon. When Heath hadn't shown up for a couple of days, Katie forgot about taking an afternoon nap, and on Thursday after school she and Raquel went to the mall to check out a new boutique that had just opened. As they said their goodbyes, Katie felt great waves of fatigue wash over her. She knew she wasn't just tired. This was a feeling that took hold of her, like the pull of an undertow in the tide. When she got home, Katie told her parents she had a headache and was going to take a nap before dinner. She saw them exchange glances as she went upstairs, but they didn't say anything. Katie was barely able to stay awake long enough to get to her room, where she fell onto her bed as the curtain of sleep swept over her. Then she was standing on the porch, wearing the white lacy sundress. She could smell the fragrance from the honeysuckle and rose bushes in the gentle breeze. Once again, Heath was leaning against the elm tree, wearing the same torn blue jeans and T-shirt with the cut-off sleeves.
Hi. I've been waiting for you.
Hi! What's that strange burning smell? Wood? Leaves? No, it isn't like anything I've smelt before.
Katie wrinkled up her nose and drew her shoulders up to her ears. She didn't understand it, but something about the odor made her feel afraid. Was this the smell of fear? Then the odor vanished, leaving Katie unsure that she'd even smelled it at all. Heath took her hand, and she felt charged with energy at his touch. He looked down at her with that mischievous, deliciously wicked grin.
You know, it looks as if there's a whole world right there in those blue eyes of yours. Katie Blue. I got a whole world of my own inside, too. What a world it is. If only a girl would prove to me that she really wants to know about it.
But how would how would she prove to you that she really wants to know about your world?
Well, you know, I'm glad you asked me that, Katie. I'd hoped you were interested, because people like you and me, we're different from the rest, aren't we? You know, a lot of girls just don't understand me, Katie. And that's why they're not special enough for me.
What don't they understand?
Heath stared at her for a moment, his eyes glittering strangely. Then he walked over to the rose bushes at the side of the house. Katie was too shocked to say a word as she watched him rip rose after rose from the bushes. He gathered several roses in his arms. The thorns should have been tearing into his flesh, but he seemed oblivious to them.
Here, I brought you some flowers.
Oh, no, the thorns will hurt my hands.
Oh. Well, so much for that idea. Have it your own way.
Oh, you shouldn't destroy things, Heath.
Shouldn't I? Well, let me let you in on a little secret, Katie Blue. I do a lot of things I shouldn't do. I'm a bad boy. Are you mad at me?
He's teasing me. I should have known it all along. How could anyone who makes me feel this way be bad? Heath is so handsome, too. He's just a rebel.
Have you been thinking of me, Katie?
Oh, yes. Every day. It's so weird.
Katie told him some of the things that had changed since the first time they met. She left out the part about guys flirting with her, and especially the part about Jason. She didn't think Heath would appreciate that part.
It's what I told you, isn't it, Katie? That I can change your life. Just keep being my special girl. My special girl won't try to break up with me, ever. And she won't take up with other guys. I couldn't let my girl cheat on me with other guys. I just wouldn't stand for it.
What would you do?
Oh, I think there's something.
He's teasing me again. No, he's not. Is. I wouldn't want to break up with you, Heath, or go with another guy. But if I did, what would you do about it? You're just a dream.
Am I? Well, a dream I may be, but not just a dream. Not at all. I guess I'll have to show you, Katie, that I'm much, much more than just a dream.
Katie woke up with her head twisted to one side, under the pillow. The first thing she was conscious of was the throbbing pain in her neck.
Oh, naps are supposed to be refreshing. I never felt so groggy and strange. Oh, I'm starved. How long have I been asleep? Hello?
Hi there.
Who is this?
Well, you know who I am.
Listen, I'm not going to play games. Tell me who you are, or I'll hang up.
Oh, come on, sweetheart. Don't you recognize my voice? Gee, I was sure you'd have guessed by now. I know you real well. In fact, we're getting to know each other better all the time. I'll give you a hint. Katie Blue Eyes? Katie, why don't you speak to me? Aren't you glad I called?
This is not happening.
Well, I thought you'd be glad to hear my voice. But I can tell you're not. I bet I know why. If I'm just a dream, as you put it, when you aren't dreaming, you can do as you please, and I have to stay where I am. Maybe you're seeing another guy. Well, let me tell you something. Don't think you can lead me on, because you won't get away with it. Everything you do,
And everywhere you go, I'm gonna be watching you. All the time. Pretty soon, you won't even be able to think a thought without me being there to listen to it.
Katie? Katie? Wake up. You're having a bad dream.
Wake up. I am awake.
No, dear. It was a bad dream.
Oh, I'm okay now, really.
Well, let me feel your forehead. No fever. Well, we were a little worried when you didn't come down to dinner, but you seemed to be sleeping so peacefully, we decided not to wake you.
I slept through dinner? Oh my gosh, it's 4 a.m. Dad, I guess I just need something to eat, that's all. I can fix something for myself.
Okay, but take it easy. Too much food before you go back to sleep will give you nightmares all over again.
The question is, was I awake when I got that phone call or not? It felt like I was awake. If I was, and thought I got a phone call from someone who was in a dream, someone who didn't exist, what would that mean?
The answer was easy. It would mean that she was crazy.
Wow, Katie, you look beat.
Thanks, Raquel. I needed that.
Well, trust me to put my foot in my mouth. When will I ever learn? Maybe you just need some makeup. Oh, I think I did it again.
Oh, that's okay. I'm sure I do look beat. I woke up early and I just couldn't get back to sleep.
Poor thing.
That's not the truth. The truth is I couldn't go back to sleep because I was afraid to see someone who's waiting for me in my dreams. But I can't tell anyone, except my diary.
Well, cheer up. I'm having that get-together after school today. You remembered, right?
No. Well, I didn't exactly forget. It just slipped my mind that it was today.
Well, unslip it. You can come home with me right after the last class.
Listen, Raquel, I don't know if I'm up to anything social. I'm so tired. I thought I might just go home and take a nap.
A nap? My 80-year-old grandmother takes naps. Katie, if you're taking naps after school, no wonder your sleep is messed up. You come on over after school and forget about the nap. We'll splash some cold water on your face and you'll put on some makeup. You'll start having fun. And pretty soon you'll forget all about feeling tired.
Well, I want to go to Raquel's, but maybe I better not. Heath will be waiting for me, I just know it. He isn't the kind of guy who likes to be kept waiting. He's so jealous. If I go to Raquel's, something unpleasant might happen.
Earth to Katie, Earth to Katie. Are you there?
Sorry, Raquel. Like I said, I'm tired, and I guess I'm a little spacey.
Never mind. Listen, you're coming over. End of story. Besides, that's a brand new dress you're wearing. Isn't there somebody you want to get a good long look at you in it?
Morning, ladies. So, Katie, you're coming over to Raquel's house later, aren't you?
I invited her, but she's playing hard to get.
Well, then, let's start convincing her.
Okay, I'm going already.
All right, that's the spirit. See you there.
Well, should I feel slighted because he convinced you a whole lot quicker than I did?
Oh. Am I that obvious?
Well, let's just say I could tell there was something going on there. Hey, he doesn't get that close to me when he asks about homework.
The dreams of Heath Granger seemed remote and unimportant now. Katie could hardly believe that only moments ago the thought of Heath had so filled her with fear that she'd almost turned down a chance to get to know Jason Miller.
Honestly, Heath is just a dream. Why should I be scared of his silly old dream?
Come on, guys, this is my new CD player. I'm showing off here. Why would anyone dance? Oh, I'm gonna get some fajitas.
Katie, you want to dance?
Sure, Jason. It's so hot in here. I'm really thirsty. Could we go get a drink?
Yeah, come on.
Okay.
Left nipple blue. Let's just stay here in the kitchen and talk for a while. I've been hoping for a chance to get to know you, and this is the first moment we've had alone. So, tell me about yourself.
What would you like to know?
Anything and everything.
Well, I used to be sort of quiet, you know. I mean, I had lots of friends, but I don't know, serious. It's different here. It's almost like I'm somebody else.
Uh-huh. I can be kind of quiet myself sometimes. And then the next minute, you can't shut me up.
Sometimes I still think I'm supposed to be serious all the time.
No, I bet you don't give yourself enough credit. You know, you may be sensible and serious, but that's not the way I describe that dress you're wearing. And that's not the way it makes me feel. Why don't I take you home?
Whoa, hi, guys. Whoa.
Hey, Freddie. Have you been drinking?
Oh, you bet I have.
Oh, man. Woo, smells like beer.
Yeah, right again.
Where'd you get it?
Hey, want some, pal? Okay, it's on the back of my car.
In your car? You've been drinking beer and you're driving? Oh, that's perfect, Freddie. Just perfect.
Something wrong?
Yeah, really, Freddie. You're my friend and all, but you can be a real jerk sometimes.
Oh, come on.
There's no way you're driving in that shape, man. I'll give you a ride. Come on, Freddie. Just wait for me outside, okay? I'm sorry, Katie. I better drive Freddie home. We promised we'd look out for each other when it came to situations like this. Although right now I feel more like running over him than looking after him.
I think it's nice that you take care of your friends.
Katie, would you like to go out someplace with me tomorrow night?
Sure, Jason. I like that a lot.
Great.
Back home later that evening, Katie eased herself into the shower. She shivered a little as she waited for the water to warm up. Soon the shower stall was clouded with steam. Katie grabbed a bottle of new scented shampoo she'd bought and lathered up her hair.
I wouldn't have missed going to Raquel's this afternoon for the world. Funny how I was always shy around new people. This afternoon I had so much fun. Of course, Jason was the best part. Ouch! Oh, this water's getting hot. I haven't touched anything, so why's it heating up? Darn this old-fashioned plumbing.
Katie turned on more cold water and went back to thinking about the party.
I've got a date with Jason Miller for Saturday night. Ah! Wow, that's hot. Try turning the cold water on full this time. No good. What is going on? Is the whole plumbing system in this house breaking down completely? Something's wrong.
Something was very wrong. The water was hot and getting hotter. It happened so fast that Katie felt the heat before she was conscious of feeling it. She made a frantic grab at the cold water knob, caught hold of it, and turned. It spun crazily round and round in her hand. In a panic, Katie reached for the handle of the shower cabinet to let herself out, but her hands were so wet and soapy she couldn't get a grip on it.
I gotta get out of here!
The steam was so thick she couldn't see her hands in front of her, and the hot water was burning the soles of her feet. Katie slipped and fell down on the tiles. As she hauled herself up, her hand found the washcloth, and fighting to keep calm, she used it to hold the door handle. Now it turned easily, and Katie stepped out of the shower stall into the steamy bathroom. She leaned against the basin, feeling dazed. Finally, she put on her bathrobe and started to wrap a towel around her hair. She glanced at her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes were wide with fear in her pale face. Then she saw something else. Written in the steam on the bathroom mirror was a message. Waiting makes me very angry.
I must be losing my mind. That's the only explanation. If I'm not, then what's happening is real.
Katie couldn't stand it anymore. She ran to her bedroom and hid under the covers, wrapping the sheets tightly around her, shaking like a frightened child.
Heath is here in this house. I know it. I can feel it. He's hiding here somewhere, watching, waiting, biding his time.
Then she remembered she'd left the shower on. She crept down the hall to the bathroom, her heart pounding. Slowly, she opened the door. The steam in the bathroom had evaporated. There was no trace of any message on the mirror. None. Katie opened the door of the shower stall and ran her fingers cautiously under the spray. It was lukewarm.
I can't have imagined it. There.
A huge wave of fatigue washed over her. Turning out the lights, Katie went back to her bed and soon drifted into a restless slumber. Katie had not even fully entered the dream when she saw Heath, as if from far away, pacing back and forth, waiting for her.
What's the idea of making me wait? I thought we had an understanding.
Not after that phone call. Just who do you think you are, scaring me like that at 4 o'clock in the morning? And I didn't appreciate your little love note in the bathroom either. I could have been covered with blisters, or worse.
I'm sorry, Katie. I wanted to see you. And I thought you'd be here if you wanted to see me. Well, that's why I wrote the message. I didn't mean for the water to be so hot it'd hurt you. Honest.
Well, it's not that easy, Heath. You can't just erase the whole thing. Don't ever do anything like that again. I mean it.
I won't, Katie. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. You're forgiven.
Why is it so hard for me to stay angry with him?
Heath took Katie in his arms, pressing her head against his chest, a look of triumph in his eyes.
Why are you always waiting for me?
I'm a dream, Katie. Somebody's got to dream me up.
You mean, if I don't dream about you, you don't exist?
Well, it's not that I don't exist, but it's sort of like a book. It can be there on the shelf all the time, but unless somebody takes it off the shelf and reads it, nothing happens.
Just a minute. How much can you see?
Well, see what?
Stop it. You know what I mean. Can you see through my dress? Can you see me in the shower? What special powers do dreams have? I'll never speak to you again, you slimy rat. I'm not coming back to see you ever again. I don't care if I have to stay awake forever.
Well, wait, Katie, please. I'm sorry. I was only teasing. I can't see anything through your dress, and I didn't see anything in the shower, I promise.
How did you know when I was in the shower? And how did you write the message? Well?
It's not like seeing with your eyes. I know things. I can sense things. I get a feeling about a person. Don't be angry with me, Katie. I want to be with you so much. And I want you to be with me all the time.
Katie? Katie, come downstairs. I won't stand for you sleeping all day long.
Really? Nobody ever lets me sleep anymore.
This is ridiculous, Katie. Get up at once.
Let me alone. It's Saturday. Who are you, sleep police?
If you're not out of there in 5 minutes, Katie, then you're too tired to go out tonight.
Okay. I didn't know it was so late.
Katie didn't want to break her date with Jason, but after her dream last night, she wasn't looking forward to it as much as she had been. Now she felt a little disloyal and a little guilty about going out with Jason, and a little scared.
It was wonderful being with Heath at first, but now I'm not so sure I want to be a special girl. I don't want to be with him all the time. I certainly don't want anything to interfere with my date tonight with Jason.
Bopper lay dozing in the corner of the room. The basset hound gave a tiny shake of her head as she slept.
What do dogs dream about? Would Heath take his jealousy out on a helpless old dog? Oh, come on, Katie. This kind of thinking's getting out of control. You don't really take this dream guy stuff seriously, do you?
Bopper made little yelping sounds in her sleep. She was lying sideways on the floor, thrashing her feet in the air as if she were running.
No, it can't be. It's like she's trying to get away from something. Or someone.
Bopper, wake up!
Heath, if you're there, don't hurt her. Please don't hurt her.
The old basset hound's eyes rolled back in her head. She gave a single sharp yowl and was still. Katie felt as if a hand had just reached in and grabbed her heart. She shook the dog again. There was no That night, Katie and Jason were seated together at a corner table in a restaurant. A real restaurant. Not like the pizza joint she and her friends usually went to. After the meal, Katie told him about her experience with Bopper.
I've never seen a dog move or make noises like that when it was sleeping. Bopper's usually quiet, so it scared me half to death.
Well, I'm glad it was a false alarm and Bopper's okay. My collie yaps in his sleep all the time. I think it's a riot, unless he wakes me up. Katie, I hope you don't think I'm trying to show off by bringing you to a place like this. It's just that I got some extra money for my birthday, and, well, I wanted this date to be perfect. So I said to myself, why not?
Jason reached across the table and took her hand. Katie thought how gentle his touch was.
Jason doesn't make a big deal about being tough or strong the way Heath does, yet it's obvious that he's both. It's such a relief to be with someone who's not always acting mysterious or like some kind of character in a movie. Someone who doesn't have anything to hide.
They finished their meal and headed home. As Jason pulled his car to a stop outside her house, Katie felt that the evening had passed by all too quickly.
Well, thanks for a terrific time, Jason.
Sure. I wanted tonight to be perfect, and it was. More than I could have ever imagined.
Well, good night.
Wait, don't leave yet. I've just been composing a poem for you. It's sort of a love letter. Ready?
You're embarrassing me.
Come on, I'm the one who's taking the big risk here. Well, here it goes. A rose is beautiful. So are diamonds and pearls. Katie Shaw, would you be my girl? Well, what do you think? Okay, so I'm not a prize-winning poet, but it's the thought that counts, right?
Oh, I like the thought, Jason. Of course I'll be your girl.
What the heck? I can't turn it off.
Oh, it's hurting my ears.
What's happening? Now the wipers are going and the lights are turning on and off, and I haven't even touched the controls.
It's Heath. I know he's here.
Oh, no, that's all we need. We'll wake the whole neighborhood.
Oh, Jason, look! There's smoke coming out of the engine. Turn off the ignition.
I'm trying. I can't. It won't turn off. I can't turn this crazy thing off.
Oh, no, Jason, the lights have come on in my house. My parents must have woken up. I'm sorry. I gotta go.
Katie stepped quickly out of the car. She wasn't even halfway up the walk when the car suddenly stopped rocking. Then the windshield wipers were still, and all the noises from the car were silenced. After telling her parents that something had gone wrong with the wiring in Jason's car, Katie went up to bed. Almost as soon as she closed her eyes, the dream came rushing in to claim her. She was standing on the porch in the sunshine. Heath was glaring at her. Katie could feel the heat of his rage all the way from where he stood in the yard.
Just what was going on tonight?
You better explain what you mean.
It's simple. Where'd you go tonight? With whom? And what did you do?
It's none of your business.
I asked you something, and I expect you to give me an answer. Now!
I went out with a friend.
Friend? I don't know much about your friends, do I? I'll have to start learning. Let's start with the friend you met tonight. Tell me about him, Katie. You wonder how I know it wasn't a girlfriend, don't you? I could feel the atmosphere in that car. Things were getting really hotted up in there, weren't they? You forgot all about me. I thought I could count on you, Katie. I guess I shouldn't expect a girl like you to care about someone like me.
Katie looked at Heath sitting slumped on the porch steps. Suddenly it struck her that Heath played 3 characters: Mr. Wonderful, Mr. McNasty, and the poor little boy.
Why has it taken me so long to see through his routine? First I get bullied by Mr. McNasty, then I'm supposed to feel sorry for the poor little boy and let him have his own way. And if I'm lucky, then Mr. Wonderful will come out and play. I can't believe I ever fell for it. Well, the hypnotic spell is definitely broken. Heath just doesn't know it yet.
Heath was still pouting. Every so often he would glance at her out of the corner of his eye to see if she was making a move.
Careful, Katie. He's a mean one. It looks like you're trapped here with him. Come on, Heath. Let's just go for a walk. That threw you, huh? You were expecting to be fussed over quite a bit more, weren't you?
They walked toward the road that ran alongside Katie's house. Heath picked some white clover and handed it to Katie.
Here, Katie. These are for you.
Well, I guess Mr. Wonderful decided to make an appearance. Come on, Heath. Let's cross over to the other side of the road. I've never explored those woods over there.
Nah, it's nicer over here. I've seen what's there already.
Well, then you can show me.
Stop it, Katie. I told you I don't want to go.
Uh-oh. Pretty soon, Mr. McNasty's gonna be back. Don't be a party pooper, Heath. I want to find out what these woods are like. If I'm in a dream world, I want to explore it.
Katie, you're not to go over there.
So now Mr. McNasty's back. Surely he'll follow me. Why is he being such a stick in the mud?
But when Katie got to the other side of the road and turned around, Heath wasn't following her at all. The dream had suddenly vanished, leaving only darkness.
Oh, no! I've overslept again. I'll be late today for sure.
As Katie clattered downstairs, she could see her father's tight-lipped expression. She tried to make herself as small as possible as she slid into her seat at the breakfast table.
Katie, I know you had trouble sleeping in the past, but now you're sleeping way too much. You're ignoring your alarm in the morning. Can't you find a happy medium?
I don't think I'm sleeping too much.
Oh? Well, think again. And all day yesterday, you acted like you were in another world.
Do you want to see a doctor?
Maybe, but not the kind of doctor you have in mind, Mom. It's just that I've been staying up late studying. This is a new school, and I want to make sure I adjust to their teaching methods. I gotta go.
Katie grabbed her books and ran outside before her parents could ask her any more questions. Standing at the bus stop, she felt so tired that she started to drift off to sleep, but the arrival of the school bus jolted her awake. At school, Katie's mood brightened when Jason fell into step with her in the hall.
And how about that old car Saturday night, huh? That old bomb. It's never had so much energy.
No more trouble on the way home?
Not a bit, but I'm gonna check it out. Look, I've got to go to class early. Maybe we can get together later?
Oh, I don't know if that's really a good idea. I mean, there's homework and everything. And of course, that special guy waiting for me in my dreams. My own worst nightmare.
Come on, Katie. From what I know about you, I'd have guessed you'd have done all your homework from now to the end of the month. Are you sure you're not playing hard to get? It won't do you any good because I'm going to be very persistent.
Okay, I get the point. You know I'd like to see you later.
Great. I'll meet you here then.
Okay.
Miss Shaw,
Yes, Mr. Preston?
I'd like to have a word with you about the quality of your work lately. It just hasn't been up to par. Carelessness is very unusual for you, and I'm really rather surprised. I hope you have an explanation.
Katie was crushed. She had never heard anything like this from a teacher before. All she could do was shake her head and promise to be careful. She had an explanation, all right. She just couldn't tell him what it was. Katie didn't study that night. She went out with Jason instead. They went to Fuzzy's, the local hangout. It was really great to walk in as a couple, to be somebody, to be popular. Now Katie didn't have to work at being the center of attention. It just happened. When Katie got into bed that night, she took out her diary. Propping herself against the pillows, she began to write.
Dear Diary, I know I haven't written in a while, but so much has happened so fast. I'm hardly like the old Katie at all. Sometimes I'm not even sure who I am. Did all this happen because of Heath Granger? Did Heath give me the nerve to change? Is he even real?
Katie stared out at the moon and started to think about Jason and his love letter poem to her.
That's it! Love letter. I'll get Heath to write me a love letter, and when I wake up, I'll have it to prove he's real, and I didn't just imagine him. Not that I really want a love letter from Heath, not anymore. Besides, if he knows I went out with Jason tonight, he wouldn't want to write me a love letter anyway. Who knows what he'd do?
The thought made Katie twist the sheet in her hands. She wished she could predict what Heath would find out. There seemed to be no pattern to it. Sometimes he knew everything that happened in her life. Other times she was surprised at what he didn't catch. Of course, it might be possible that Heath wasn't telling her everything he knew. Katie fell asleep, and it was only a few minutes before she saw Heath, leaning as usual against the tree at the front of the house.
Oh, Katie. You know, I wish you'd stay here all the time with me. Isn't it beautiful? Well, it's always sunny and warm, and you'd be my girl, always. Imagine. No more homework, no more scolding teachers. What could be so bad about living forever in a beautiful dream?
No way. Hey, how does he know about Mr. Preston? Heath, how did you know about my teacher telling me off?
Well, you were thinking about him before you went to sleep, weren't you? I just pick things up sometimes. Never can tell what.
Does he know I think about Jason, too? He's doing this on purpose to keep me guessing, to confuse me. Can you tell there's something I've been wanting you to do?
Huh? What?
Well, I'd been hoping you'd write me a love letter. I've never had one. Good. He wasn't expecting that. Look, I even brought you a pen and some paper.
Well, okay. Women. It's not gonna be long. I'm no poet.
Oh, that's okay. I'm sure if you care for me the way you say you do, you'll find the perfect words.
As Heath trudged away, he remembered to turn around and flash Katie a dazzling smile. He sat on the edge of the porch writing, while Katie sat on the steps, waiting.
Okay. Here you are.
I love you, Katie Blue. I guess English wasn't your favorite subject, Heath. Well, at least it's something.
Well, it's about your blue eyes.
Oh, thank you.
Now, give it back.
Oh, you don't give back love letters, Heath.
Give it back.
Oh, please, Heath.
Katie knew she wasn't going to be able to reason him out of it. She clutched the note in her hand and concentrated as hard as she could.
Wake up! I've got to wake up! Come on, Katie, open your eyes. Come on! It worked. I'm awake, and I've still got his letter in my hand. Oh, what's that smell?
A sharp burning heat filled her lungs. A thick curtain of smoke hung in the air. Katie jumped out of bed. Sparks and little flames were coming from the lamp cord on her bedside table. Then the lace doily under the lamp started to burn. Katie stood transfixed. She didn't realize that she dropped the precious note from Heath until the flames started licking at its edges. Before she could even think of saving it, it was reduced to ashes. Grabbing a pillow from the bed, she started to beat out the blaze. She knocked over the lamp, pulling the plug from the wall. Sparks shot out of the socket, leaving black, sooty stains. Then it was over. Throwing down the charred pillow, Katie opened a window and took in great gulps of air.
That was awful. The wiring in this old house is really dangerous. Oh, Heath's letter is ruined. It's just a pile of ashes. Oh, it was all for nothing. I've lost the proof that he's real.
She slumped into a chair in the corner of her room and stared blankly out of the window. Suddenly, the movement of what seemed like a shadow made her turn around. It wasn't a shadow. Heath was in her room, sitting in the chair at her dressing table, staring at her with the most awful look in his eyes.
No!
You tricked me into writing that letter so you could bring it back here, didn't you?
Yes.
I don't want you playing any tricks on me, trying to take things out of the dream ever again. Ever. Ever! Do you understand? So, these ashes are all that's left?
Katie nodded in silence and looked away. Her gaze fell on the chair where she'd been sitting. What she saw made her insides lurch. She was looking down at her own sleeping body. It was like those scenes in a movie where the soul looks down on the dead body that housed it.
But this isn't a movie. I'm looking at myself. I'm not dead. This is only a dream.
Squeamish, are we? Well, that's too bad. Well, I guess I'm finished here for now. Remember, Katie, everything from the dream stays in the dream. Oh, by the way, do you have a diary?
Yes. Why?
Where is it?
Why?
Where is it?
It's in the drawer! In the table by the bed! Oh, no! No!
Don't write about me. Don't write about me and don't talk about me.
When Katie awoke, she stared at the black stains on the wall, the charred lamp cord, and the cloud of ash around the lamp. She hugged her knees and trembled as everything came back to her. Her diary was lying on the floor in the corner of the room. She got out of bed and picked it up. With shaking hands, she unlocked the diary and thumbed through it. At first, everything seemed to be just as she'd left it, but when she got to the place where she'd started writing about Heath, it was unreadable. The pages were covered all over with the wild, crazy scribbles of an unseen hand.
Yesterday I told you that next week we are going to be dealing with Romeo and Juliet, as you know, by William Shakespeare. And I asked you, class, pay attention. Jackson, pay attention. I asked you to have a look at the introduction. I did that particularly because I want you...
Something wrong?
I want today to talk about the evolution...
I guess I'm just tired. I haven't been sleeping very well lately.
Now, in your
It'll
book, there's a
pass.
picture of a theater.
Okay, if you say so.
How many of you...
If only I could talk to her. If only I could talk to somebody. Why does Mr. Preston keep giving me those disapproving looks? Oh, I've got to pay attention. Oh, got to stay awake.
Soon Katie couldn't hold on any longer. The room started to swirl around her, and Katie was riding on a carousel she couldn't get off. Then she was falling through a dark, bottomless pit. When she landed, she was lying on her porch steps, staring up at the sky.
Having trouble concentrating?
I'm at home. No, I can't be. But if I'm not at home, that means I'm still in my English class, asleep. What are you doing, Heath? I'm supposed to be paying attention to the lecture. Do you realize how it looks? Mr. Preston will find me here asleep at my desk.
Well, that's not my problem, Katie. You're just taking a little break to pay attention to me instead.
Someone might hear you.
Hey, don't worry, Miss Goody Two-Shoes. Your class can't hear us unless you start snoring, that is.
Why are you doing this, Heath? Why?
Because I can. I'm through playing along with you. Now you're gonna play along with me.
He thinks he's been playing along with me?
From now on, Katie, you're gonna meet me exactly when I tell you to. Oh, at first I had to let you run the show. I let you decide when you wanted to go to sleep, when you wanted to be with me, when you wanted to be somewhere else. But the more time you spent dreaming me, the stronger I became.
Of course. That's why he wanted to be with me all the time. That's why I'm always so tired. Heath is taking something from me. Some kind of energy. You're bluffing, Heath. You're just trying to scare me.
Am I? I never got you out of class before, did I? Hey, don't fight with me, Katie. You can't win. Hey, isn't this better than being in school? Come on, Katie. I'm a real charming guy. Better than that sandy-eyed mama's boy, Jason.
He knows about Jason.
You might say I'm a dream come true for you, Katie. Hey, you may as well get to like it, and you better stay on my good side, because you know what? One of these days, I could be the one dreaming you up.
Any questions? Any questions at all?
Stop laughing! Stop it! Oh, stop it! No! No, stop
Wake
it!
up, Katie!
No.
Wake up! Katie, what's the matter with you?
Oh, no. I fell asleep in class.
Have you been taking drugs? Have you been drinking, Katie?
No, sir. Of course not.
I want you to come with me and see Miss Fusco, the guidance counselor, Katie. You'll see what she has to say.
Now then, Katie, what's the problem?
I'm not taking drugs, and I haven't been drinking.
Tell us the truth, Katie.
Could I have a glass of water? Why are you looking at me like that? I only asked for a glass of water. Is that supposed to mean I'm a drug addict?
Well, if you'll excuse me, Miss Fusco, I have to get back to my class. I'll see you later, Katie.
Right. There you go.
Thank you.
I haven't known you very long, Katie, and I haven't formed any opinions about you yet. But I have to tell you that Mr. Preston isn't the only one to be worried about the change in your behavior. Now, why don't you tell me what you think is going on?
What do you mean, going on?
I'm not about to play games with you, Katie. The drop in your grades is serious.
Oh, please, don't say anything to my parents.
Okay. We'll do it your way for a while. But you better be straight with me. If you don't seem to be doing anything to harm yourself, we'll leave it all right here. But that's the best I can promise you.
I'm having nightmares. Trouble sleeping. I guess that's why I was so tired I fell asleep in class.
When did all this start?
Just after I moved here.
I've been looking at your file, Katie. It looks like you were basically a serious student before you came here. Now you're a regular social butterfly. Well, by the way, your outfit's very fashionable.
Thanks.
You know, sometimes when we try too hard to be something we're not, it backfires and causes us other problems. Why not just try to be yourself?
I'll keep that in mind. I think I've gotten some insight out of this talk with you, Miss Fusco. It's been very helpful. Can I go now, Miss Fusco? I'm really tired.
All right, Katie. We'll talk again.
The hallway was deserted. The last class of the day had already started. The students sat in classrooms behind closed doors. As Katie walked down the hall, she felt isolated in a way she never had before.
I suppose Miss Fusco was only trying to help. I wish I could have talked to her, but she wouldn't have believed me. Nobody would. Oh, I can't face going back to class. I feel so awful. Everyone seeing me fall asleep like that. I guess I'll just go home.
Later, alone in her room, Katie sat at her dressing table, staring blankly into the mirror. The girl who stared back was thinner than Katie remembered, with wide, frightened eyes full of feverish brilliance. Suddenly, the room began to get hotter. Perspiration rolled in huge droplets from Katie's forehead. Then the reflection in the mirror changed. The droplets that trickled down her face were no longer perspiration. They were like candle drippings. Katie's face was melting. Flesh rolled from her skull like huge blobs of hot wax and landed on the dressing table. A horrified eye stared out of a bony socket. It wasn't long before Katie's entire skull stared back at her from the mirror. The teeth seemed to grin at her. Then she realized it was a reflection of herself. She was so terrified that her hair was standing away from her face. In horror, Katie watched as masses of cockroaches poured from the grinning, lipless skull.
You like this game? It's called Illusion.
Suddenly the reflection of the revolting, cockroach-infested skull vanished, and Katie's own frightened face stared back at her from the mirror.
Want to play another one?
No.
Oh, don't be a party pooper. You get the message, Katie? Don't make me mad.
Katie ran to the bathroom. Hanging onto the sink, she bent over the toilet bowl and threw up until she was too dizzy to stand. The blackness closed in all around her. Katie didn't know how long she lay on the bathroom floor. After a long while, she got up slowly and brushed her teeth, twice. Then she walked back to her room.
Oh, that vision was so real. What did Heath call this game? Illusion. I hope he won't ever play that again, but he probably will. One thing's for sure, Heath is getting stronger and meaner.
A wave of dark exhaustion swept over Katie. Soon she was swept into the dream once more, so swiftly that the taste of toothpaste still lingered on her lips.
Did you enjoy my little game, Illusion? Incredible, wasn't it?
That I ever had the illusion you were charming is what's incredible. You're about as charming as a vulture.
And you thought I was just a figment of your imagination. Well, whoa, girl. It looks like your imagination has run wild.
His laugh's just like a death rattle.
Never mind. We don't have to play that game anymore. If you start keeping to your end of the bargain, Katie, you promised to be my special girl.
His special girl? What a revolting idea. What's he up to?
I said I'd help you find yourself, and I did. Well, without me, Katie, you'd be nothing. Just the quiet, timid girl you were before.
Is that true, Heath? Or have you made this up to intimidate me? You said you'd help me, and I fell for it. But I'm the one who took it from there. The truth is that without me, you'd be nothing. I just wish I could figure out how to get rid of you.
And how did you repay me, Katie? By going out with another guy. Then you tried to trick me with that love letter business. You deliberately do something without considering that I might get hurt. Well, I had to go back and get that letter. You have no idea of the pain.
Heath, tell me what kind of things could hurt you, and I'll be careful not to do them.
Until I can do them all together and blast you out of my life.
Yes. Wouldn't it be nice if I tell you what can hurt me? Oh, sure, you'd be real careful. You'd better start keeping your end of the bargain, Katie, or something unpleasant might happen. You wouldn't want to wake up one morning and find out you'd been walking in your sleep and done something terrible. Maybe gone down to the kitchen, gotten a big knife out of the drawer. Maybe gone after that old dog, or gone back upstairs and into your parents' room.
What kind of monster is he, talking so calmly about killing my whole family?
You just watch yourself, Katie. I don't like being jerked around.
The moment Katie woke up, she reached under her pillow and pulled out the tape recorder. She had set it to record just before she fell asleep. With trembling hands, she rewound the tape and pushed the play button. The cassette reel started to turn.
Come on, come on.
You'd better start keeping your end of the bargain, Katie, or something unpleasant might happen. You wouldn't want to wake up one morning and find out you'd been walking in your sleep.
At last, I've got him. If it really is harmful to him to have any kind of evidence brought back to this world, what's happening to him now? Whatever it is, I hope it's horrible.
Suddenly the tape recorder was moving in Katie's hand. The reels were turning backwards. The erase button was down, and nothing Katie could do would raise it. Frantically, she pushed the off button. A white-hot flash of pain blazed through her head without warning. It was as if someone had driven a burning spike into her brain. She was paralyzed. As she sat on the bed, the walls of the room began to move in a violent, waving motion. The windows rattled. A chair overturned with a crash, and books flew off the shelves. The tape recorder started to wail and howl. Katie tried to let go of it, but it refused to leave her hands. Horrified, she held out the machine at arm's length. Then the howls changed into a different sound.
You want to hear my voice? Is that why you've done this? Have you any idea of the pain you've caused me by taking my voice and putting it on this thing? The pain is worse than this!
Another burning flash cut into Katie's skull. This time it sent her sprawling on the floor.
I'll make sure you hear my voice a lot now. I'm going to echo inside your brain until you wish you were dead.
The tape recorder she was holding began to grow hotter and hotter. Katie tried to shake it loose, but it was stuck to her hand as if it were glued. A hot pain shot up her arm. The machine was eating the tape, turning it into a twisted, tangled mess. Finally, when there was nothing left of it, the recorder fell onto the floor. As the pain in her hands subsided, Katie lifted them in front of her eyes, sure that she'd see nothing but charred stumps. But her hands weren't burned. There weren't even any blisters. It was as if nothing had happened. Heath's appearance on the tape recorder marked the beginning of Katie's campaign of trying not to sleep. She hoped that if she didn't go to sleep, it would take away Heath's strength. Maybe she could even make him fade away altogether. The first night she slogged through a term paper for Mr. Preston's English class. She thought it was turning out to be as good as any of the work she'd done before.
Staying awake all night is easy. After all, I've done it plenty of times before. Never on purpose. Still,
I guess I need a little makeup to help me look okay at school. Maybe some eye drops to take care of the redness. There. And a little cover-up under my eyes to hide the dark circles. There. You look great. No one will ever know I've been up all night. I wonder why Heath didn't try to make me fall asleep last night. He's pulled me into sleep lots of times before. What happened? Maybe he's planning some new trick for me. Some new horror.
When the day went by without any disasters, Katie decided to try another sleepless night. This time it wasn't so easy. After she finished her homework, she turned on the TV. A few hours of watching, and she was bored.
At least Heath doesn't seem to be around. I can't feel him pulling at me at all. This is just normal sleepiness. Oh, I'm so sick of yawning. Maybe I should just give up and go to bed. Wait a minute. What was that Heath said about sleepwalking? Surely he can't make me hurt Mom and Dad and Bopper. Or could he?
Katie put on her headphones and turned on her Walkman full blast. She flipped through some fashion magazines. It was too hard to concentrate on reading a book. After a while, she went downstairs and made a pot of coffee. She made it good and strong and decided to drink it black. She hoped it might keep her awake. After she had finished her second large cup, she noticed that her hands were shaking. It was daylight now, and Katie knew there was no way she could drive to school in her present condition. She could end up asleep at the wheel, running the car into a ditch. She shuddered, poured the remaining coffee into a thermos, and decided to walk. The eye drops and makeup didn't work the same magic this morning. She put on extra blusher and told herself she looked fine, but she felt strangely off balance, not herself. All the way to school, Katie had the weird feeling she was being followed. She turned around quickly several times, sure that she'd heard a noise, seen a shadow. But each time she did, no one was there.
Nice dress, Katie. But gee, you look wasted. Should you be in school? Are you sick or something?
Why don't you try minding your own business once in a while, Raquel?
Okay.
I mean, Rachel. Why does she have to compliment everything I wear? She might as well know I can see right through her.
Katie? Say, that was a terrific job on the last paper, Katie. That's the kind of work I'm used to seeing from you. Glad you're back on track.
Thanks.
But if you don't mind my saying so, Katie, you look a little peaked. I want good work, but there's no need to push yourself too hard. I don't want you to make yourself sick.
Actually, Katie didn't feel very well. But when she thought of going home, she became fearful of going to sleep. Before her last class, she stopped at her locker and got out her thermos. She drank a quick cup of coffee, trying to ignore the curious looks of passing students. She felt like shouting something rude at them. Her hands were shaking again. She couldn't control them. The thermos and cup slipped from her grasp and crashed to the floor.
What are you looking at? Didn't you ever drop anything?
It's okay, Katie. Here, we'll put these pieces in the wastebasket.
I'm sorry about what I said to you before, Raquel. I'm really not feeling well.
That's okay. I knew something had to be the matter. Look, don't touch anything. There's glass all over. I'll get a janitor to help us with this. Why don't you go get tidied up? Coffee splashed all over your legs and your dress.
Thanks, Raquel.
Hey, Katie, you talk to me like that again and you've had it.
Katie smiled back and shook her head. Then she walked to the restroom. She ran cold water in the sink and splashed it on her face.
I wish I could tell Raquel what's really the matter, but what would I say? Hey, Raquel, there's this guy in my dream who's trying to ruin my life, and I'm so scared of him I'm frightened to go to sleep.
Katie dabbed at the coffee stains on the hem of her dress. Suddenly she jumped. She thought she saw a bug crawling on her leg, but when she went to brush it off, it wasn't there. That's when she noticed the cobwebs hanging from her hands. She tried to shake them off, but more appeared.
What on earth is happening to me?
She looked in the mirror as if searching for an answer. There were little white soap spots on the edge of the glass.
Soap spots? How can soap spots be moving?
Then the soap spots started turning into something else. Katie watched in horror as a group of white worms started to crawl across the reflection of her face. Katie ran from the restroom back to her locker. The broken thermos was still lying there on the floor. Grabbing her coat, she ran from the school and didn't stop running until she reached her house. When she opened the front door, little flames leapt out of the keyhole. Katie knew then that Heath must have come back. Suddenly she felt so tired that she had to force herself to keep moving until she got to her room. She was barely able to hang up her clothes and change into her nightgown before she fell asleep.
Well, gee, I was beginning to think we weren't pals anymore. Come around more often. Don't make yourself a stranger. You know, sometimes it scares me how clever I am. I knew you'd try to pull something like staying awake sooner or later. That's not very smart. A girl needs her beauty sleep.
Heath, why are you tormenting me? If you hate me so much, why don't you go and haunt someone else?
I'm not gonna give you another warning. The more you try playing these games with me, the worse it's gonna get. Oh, as for staying awake to try and get rid of me, forget it. It's too bad you didn't read up on your subject a little bit. You know, I've always loved to read. That's why I've always got the edge. Let me tell you about dreams, Katie. Nobody can do without them. If you stay awake so you don't dream, you know what happens? You just make up for it by dreaming more than ever when you finally do go to sleep. And since you haven't had any sleep for the past couple of nights, you're going to be doing a whole lot of dreaming. Might as well make yourself at home. We're going to be spending quite a bit of time together.
Katie stirred, gazing at the Saturday morning sunlight filtering through the curtains on her bedroom window. She threw an arm across her face, shielding her eyes. Hours of sleep had made her feel much better. She heard the clock on the bedside table ticking away, and she turned to look at it. It was 11 o'clock. As she crept downstairs, she geared herself up for the questioning looks that her parents had been greeting her with lately, but the house was quiet. In the kitchen, she found a note stuck on the refrigerator door. Then she remembered. Her parents were leaving for their vacation that day. The note said that they'd had to set off very early and had not wanted to wake her. Katie sighed with relief and poured herself a bowl of cereal.
What am I going to do today? Turn myself in at the local funny farm? I don't think I'm crazy. But insane people never do. What did he say last night about it being too bad I didn't know more about dreams? So, I'll read up on the subject.
In less than an hour, Katie was sitting in the local library. On a table in front of her were stacked every book on sleep and dreaming she'd been able to carry over from the shelves. She began to read.
Maybe Heath is right. People need to dream. If deprived of dreaming for a period of time, there follows a phase where they dream more than usual to make up for it. Sleepwalking doesn't occur during dreaming. When you are dreaming, you can't move your arms and legs. That means I won't wake up and find I've murdered my whole family in a crazed dream like Heath said. Just like him to think up a cruel lie like that.
But it wasn't until Katie had read quite a bit more that she came upon something that brought tears to her eyes. She reached a chapter on sleep deprivation experiments. Subjects had become angry and suspicious, just as she had been with Raquel. Not only did they act strangely, but they also had hallucinations. They saw things like cobwebs on their hands and crawling bugs. As she drove home, Katie tried to hang on to the feeling of relief she'd got from her discovery at the library, but nagging doubts kept crowding in. If prolonged lack of sleep could cause hallucinations, that still didn't explain the dreams about Heath. Katie headed toward the quick-stop supermarket for some supplies. Jason was coming over that night, and they were going to hang out, watch TV, maybe pop a movie into the VCR. She needed to stock up with some soda and chips. As Katie pulled out a trolley, she saw Raquel coming through the door behind her.
She's going to get angry at me all over again. She'll be mad I left school the other day when she tried to help me without even saying a word to her.
Hi, Katie. How are you?
Hi. I'm sorry
I know. How are you feeling?
I felt sick the other day when I dropped the thermos. That's why I didn't stick around. I just went home.
It's okay. I figured something like that.
Raquel, thanks for helping me.
I'm really sorry I flew off the handle at you. It's no excuse, but sometimes I got a really bad temper.
But I never used to. Hardly ever used to raise my voice. Now I'm irritable and moody.
Let's forget the whole thing. So, you doing some shopping or what?
Sure, just snack stuff, you know. My parents are away on vacation.
Lucky you. Whoa, what's the occasion? Are you inviting the whole football team over?
I guess you got a point. Well, Jason's got a pretty hefty appetite. Hey, why don't you come over tonight and help us out?
Thanks, but I wouldn't want to leave my buddy Max alone.
Oh, your new boyfriend?
Yeah.
The drummer? Well, bring him along. Come on, it'll be fun.
Are you sure?
Well, as long as he doesn't bring the rest of the band.
Okay, we'll be there.
Oh, great. See you later.
See ya.
That evening, Katie wanted to get things ready early so she'd have plenty of time to pick out something to wear. She poured chips from the gigantic bag into a large bowl with pink, yellow, and red Mexican designs, which she'd bought recently at a yard sale. The brilliant colors had caught her eye. Katie paused for a moment. How out of place the colorful bowl looked among the soft beige colors of her mother's kitchen.
That's something I never would have chosen or even noticed a short time ago. That bowl doesn't fit here, and now, neither do I.
She peered out of the window. The evening sky was cold and gray, and little gusts of wind blew the dead leaves around in flurries.
What's that? Oh, it's only the wind, blowing things around, nothing more. Now, let's see. The others will be here in about 45 minutes. Just check I haven't forgotten anything. Chips, sodas in the fridge, videos by the TV. That's it. I'm ready to get dressed.
As Katie turned to leave the kitchen, she caught sight of her reflection in the small kitchen mirror. Her eyes glittered and seemed unusually wide and dark, her face unnaturally pale. She looked waif-like, with a kind of otherworldly beauty. Having made sure all was as it should be, Katie relaxed. She picked up the bowl of chips and started to carry it to the den.
I wonder if I should have gotten all 3 horror movies. Especially since one is Psycho. 3 might be overkill.
The bowl lay in brilliant fragments all over the kitchen floor. Katie leaned back against the refrigerator door, the blood roaring in her head. That wasn't the sound of tapping branches. That was the sound of a very large branch breaking. A branch so thick that only a person's weight could break it. And now something, or someone, was pounding on the window. Fearfully, Katie turned towards the sound. 2 eyes glowed outside in the moonlight. They were part of what Katie realized was a head. No, not a head. Just a face. A face suspended in midair with no body. A face with white, glowing eyes and lips pulled back in a grin to reveal a gleaming row of teeth. The grinning, headless face was mouthing words at Katie, screaming something she could barely hear above the rush of blood in her ears.
Wait, if it's pounding on the window, it must have a body.
For heaven's sakes, Katie! Wake up and let me in! It's cold out here!
Raquel! Oh, I've got so stressed I'm seeing monsters everywhere, even in my best friend's face.
Hi, Raquel.
Honestly, where were you? In La La Land? For a while, I thought you were just going to stand there and stare at me all night.
I guess I was daydreaming. When I saw you, I didn't recognize you for a minute. You scared me. Oh, this house is spooky, so far out in the woods, you know. Sometimes I get a little jumpy.
No kidding, I'll say. Anyway, Max isn't coming. He's got a new gig, and he asked me if I'd mind if he put in some extra practice time with his drums. So I came on over here. I know I'm a little early. I hope it's okay.
Oh, sure. Come on, we'll hang your stuff in the front hall closet.
Later, Katie sat on the sofa in front of the TV, nestled against Jason. Raquel sat on the other side of him, sipping a soda, her eyes glued to the screen. No one spoke a word. They were watching Psycho.
I know this movie so well, and it scares me just as much each time. Oh, but this is a lot different than the fear I feel when Heath is around me.
She watched as Norman Bates, the owner of the Bates Motel, peered at his unsuspecting guests through a hole in the wall. Katie didn't like this part tonight. It reminded her too much of her own feeling of being watched. Jason's arm was around her, and she leaned closer to him and took his hand. He tangled his other hand in her hair and pulled her closer. She felt his lips gently brush her hair. Suddenly, a blinding flash of white-hot pain tore through her skull. Katie wanted to scream, but she was paralyzed with pain. As she sat there helplessly, Norman Bates stopped spying on his guest and turned and stared out from the screen, directly at Katie.
Katie? Katie, you shouldn't let him touch you. You belong to me. You're my girl. My special girl.
Katie looked at the screen in horror. The voice wasn't coming from Norman Bates anymore. It was coming from Heath. It was his face there on the screen, surrounded by a fiery halo, his face twisted in rage.
Better tell Jason to stay away from my special girl, or if he's not careful, something bad might happen to him.
Then Heath's image started to flicker, and the fiery glow began to fade. As it did so, the pain in Katie's head faded away too.
Is that you, woman?
He's gone.
Me.
Did Jason and Raquel see that too?
Millionaire.
But Jason's arm remained relaxed around her shoulders. The room was quiet except for the video.
I'm not far from you now. Thought I'd check out all the hotels area.
How can Jason yawn during a movie like this?
Yeah. He was here, not far.
Wait a minute. Is Heath getting at him too?
What's wrong, Jason?
Oh, sorry, Katie. Remember I told you my uncle was coming to visit? The younger one who travels a lot?
Yeah.
Well, we were up till all hours talking, and then I had to do the early shift at Burger Boy this morning. I had to be in at 6 a.m. to set everything up.
You must be beat.
It's no big deal, really.
Yeah, Katie, he'll be okay. We've put in an all-nighter or two ourselves, and it's not so awful.
You have no idea what awful is.
Yeah, I recognize.
Well, just the same, Jason, I think you should drive home with Raquel.
You're kidding! Raquel lives in the opposite direction from me. I'm not going to take her home out of her way.
It's okay. I'd be glad to drive you home, Jason. But really, Katie, I think you're overreacting. Besides, I thought you and Jason would want some time alone together.
Yeah, come on, Katie, calm down. Let's watch the movie.
Katie prayed that everything would be all right. After the movie was over, Raquel left. Then Jason started to pop another video into the VCR.
Oh, no, Jason.
Just kidding. Let's do something else.
Oh, Jason, nothing awful's gonna happen to him. He'll be all right. Oh, if only I could make myself believe that.
Later, as they said goodbye, Katie made sure to tell Jason to be careful. Twice. Alone in the house, Katie went through every room, unplugging all the radios and television sets. She didn't care if it looked strange. She was too scared. Katie blinked as the bright morning sunlight wakened her. For a moment, she didn't realize where she was. Then she remembered that she'd gone to sleep on the couch last night because she'd been too afraid to go to bed.
Hello?
Katie, it's Raquel.
Is there something wrong with Jason?
He's had an accident with his car. He's in the hospital. I ran into his parents when I was out on an errand. They were on their way to see him. They were really upset.
Raquel, will he be all right?
He's got a concussion and 2 broken ribs, but nothing fatal. They said he must have been very lucky or he would have been hurt a lot worse.
How did it happen?
Well, they aren't exactly sure. But he ran off the road just in back of your place, about a half a mile away from your house. He ran head-on into a tree. I'm so sorry I didn't try to make him ride home with me. I feel so awful, like it's all my fault.
Oh, it's not your fault, Raquel. Please don't blame yourself.
But if he hadn't hit the tree, he could have rolled right down the hill. I wish I had told you that.
Oh, stop feeling guilty. Tell me, when you said they didn't know exactly how it happened, did they have any ideas at all? Could have been something wrong with the car, the steering wheel or the brakes?
It wasn't that at all, Katie. They think it looks like he fell asleep at the wheel.
Less than an hour after Raquel called Katie, they both stood in Jason's hospital room. Jason's head, propped up on several pillows, was covered in bandages, and there were dark circles under his eyes. Tubes extended from containers suspended overhead and snaked into his arms, and there was a cast around his chest.
It was incredible. Just so weird.
Hey, take it easy.
5 minutes, girls. He's got to get lots of rest.
Okay.
Anyway, as soon as I pulled out of the driveway, I had the strangest feeling. I was totally zonked. I think I blacked out before I was too far down the road. I'm actually glad I hit the tree, because if I hadn't, the car could have turned over and the damage would have been a lot worse. Oh, it only hurts when I breathe.
Jason, this is so unfair.
My parents are freaking out. They want all kinds of brain scans and tests.
Wow.
But my doctor keeps telling them I just fell asleep at the wheel. Overtired, that's all.
What can I do? I can't tell Jason the truth. Heath warned me. Maybe I should have told Jason I didn't want to see him anymore. No, I can't give him up. Certainly not for Heath Granger. There's got to be some way to fight this.
Okay, girls, come on, time's up. Jason needs to rest now.
Okay. We better go, Jason. You take it easy.
Okay.
I'll visit again very soon.
Bye, Jason. Be good.
Bye. Thanks for coming by.
All right, Jason. Now, are you feeling any better yet? Water? Anything like that?
Raquel, do you think I could stay overnight at your house? I know it isn't much notice, and I don't want to put you on the spot.
Katie, please. You don't even have to ask. Actually, I just assumed you wouldn't want to be alone. So I've okayed it with my mom already.
Thanks.
On their way home, they stopped briefly at Katie's house. Raquel waited in the car while Katie hurried inside and threw some things into a bag. She didn't like being in the house alone now. She always had the feeling that Heath was there, waiting for her. Later, they sat in Raquel's kitchen sipping cocoa.
Katie, with all that's happened, I didn't get a chance to tell you. I got a letter from my sister Daphne. She's graduating from college this year, and she's coming home for a visit soon. Wait, I'll show you her picture. She's a knockout. This is my sister's high school yearbook from when she graduated. There she is. Daphne Martinez.
Wow, Raquel, she's very beautiful. Cheerleading and homecoming runner-up. She must have been pretty popular.
Katie looked at Daphne's picture for a moment. Then a picture on another page drew her toward it. At first, Katie couldn't believe that it was him. The guy in the yearbook looked so neat, dressed in his yearbook best. But it was the expression in the eyes and mouth that made up her mind. Even before she looked at the name under the picture, she knew what it would be. Heath Granger.
Katie? Are you all right? You look like you've seen a ghost.
I have. Do you know anything about this guy? Heath Granger?
Sure. I know all about him. He's kind of a legend. Nobody's told you the story yet?
No.
Good looking, isn't he? If you could see his soul, though. It's probably so ugly you couldn't stand to look at it. He was a horrible person, a monster.
Go on.
Well, it was about 4 years ago, my sister's senior year, when he showed up. Nobody knew where he came from, and no one ever met his family. He lived alone somewhere, I think. At first, everybody liked him. He was extremely charming. He was kind of a rebel, too, and I guess the girls who didn't know any better thought that made him more exciting, more romantic. My sister said he'd always come roaring up to school on a motorcycle. He was so handsome, and lots of girls were after him. What made you ask about him like that? Out of the blue?
Just trust me for now, Raquel, please.
Well, pretty soon the real Heath Granger started to show. Under that thin, phony veneer of charm, Heath was cold and mean. He was like a... What do you call those people that don't think anything they do is wrong?
A psychopath?
Yes, that's what he was like. A psychopath. He only wanted to use people. He didn't really care about them at all. He didn't seem to have any feelings. He used to come over here and hang out with my sister's friends all the time. Until that day.
What day?
I'll never forget it. He was sitting on our back porch. The neighbor's cat had kittens, and I used to go and look at them every day. One of them got big enough to climb the tree in their yard and jump over the fence. Landed on Heath's back. Of course it must have hurt. The kitten was scared and tried to hold on with its claws. But Heath was so furious. He was like a madman. He grabbed the kitten hard around its neck and kept shaking it and shaking it. We all yelled at him to stop. But it was like he didn't even hear us.
Finally, he threw the kitten on the ground and it stopped moving. It was dead. I remember I started crying and my sister made him leave. She never let him come here again. But even though my sister saw through him, her best friend Cindy didn't. Heath went after Cindy right away. Of course, he just wanted her as a trophy, and after he got her, he didn't treat her very nicely.
Were they together very long?
Cindy put up with him for a while, but then she got fed up with the way he kept picking on people who couldn't defend themselves. On the night of the prom, Heath showed up dressed like a slob. Then he picked a fight with Timmy Henson in front of his date and everything. He thought it was a big joke. While Cindy refused to dance with him, she went in by herself and spent the whole evening dancing with another guy, Randy Marks. Heath flew into a rage.
Oh, did he get in a fight with Randy?
No. Randy was a football player. Picking on somebody who could fight back wasn't Heath's style. He spent the night drinking, and the more he drank, the meaner he talked. He said nobody dumped him, and he was going to make Cindy understand that. Even if he had to kill her.
Did he hurt her?
He wanted to. In the early morning, he got on his motorcycle and roared out towards Cindy's house. But he never got there. His motorcycle exploded in flames about a quarter of a mile away. It must have burned for a long time because the body had turned to ashes by the time the accident was discovered.
What happened to Cindy?
Her family moved away from here right after because Cindy kept having such terrible nightmares. She's okay now, though. She and my sister write to each other. Katie, wait. I didn't even remember this until now. Cindy lived in your house.
Raquel, how old was Cindy when she lived in my house?
Oh, well, let's see. She lived there all her life, but when they moved away, she was a junior in high school, like my sister. I think she was 17.
3 nights passed before Heath made another appearance in Katie's dream. Katie was in the garden again, and she sensed his presence immediately. She hid from him behind the rose bushes at the side of the house.
Oh, Katie, where are you? Come out, wherever you are. Gotcha! Hey, somebody might think you aren't glad to see me.
You hurt Jason! What kind of a monster are you?
Well, I'm the kind of a guy who's a monster if you mess with him. I walk tall, play by my own rules.
Oh, please. That sounds like a line from a bad movie. What you really are is the kind of guy who wouldn't get caught in a fair fight. Oh, I know who you are. I've seen the yearbook picture.
Well, that wiped the smirk off your face.
You think you're so smart, Katie, but you'll find out you're not. It doesn't matter what you know anyway, 'cause you see, this is what I'm all about.
From under his shirt, Heath took hold of a medallion that hung around his neck. Katie had never noticed it before. On the face of the medal was a growling animal that looked like a cross between a leopard and a panther.
See this? It's just like me, the jungle cat. I'm too slick and too fast and too smooth for you.
Go ahead and gloat, Heath. Then you'll give me some information, something I can use. You always let something slip when you talk about your favorite subject, yourself.
I guess you're right. You're just too smart for me.
I'm glad you realize that, Katie, 'cause this whole thing gonna be a lot easier if you cooperate.
What do you mean?
Well, it'll be just like going to sleep. Only we're gonna exchange places. I'll be the one doing the dreaming, and I'll be able to dream myself up. Then I won't have to stick around this dump. I'll be able to go where I want, and I'll get all the energy I need from you without having to be a prisoner anymore.
But what will happen to me? Will I be dead?
Oh, no, that wouldn't work at all. I'll have to keep you alive. Oh, you'll know you're alive, but they won't. The doctors and nurses, because the little heart and brain machines won't be able to register any life in you. I'll have taken it all for myself. Almost. I'll have to leave you something.
Well, if everyone thinks I'm dead, they'll put me in a coffin and bury me. What if I'm cremated? Then I'll really be dead.
Oh, don't you worry about that. If there's any danger, I'll just let you wake up for a little while.
Wow, I'd like to see their faces when you sit up in your coffin in the funeral home. What a hoot! They'll think it's a miracle.
I'm not going to panic. If he scares me so much I can't think, then he's won. What happened to you, Heath? Why are you here? No one could have survived that motorcycle accident. And though you're not alive, you're not...
Dead? No, I'm not dead. It's hard to explain. Did you ever hear the expression, too mean to die?
Katie wondered how long she'd been staring out of the kitchen window. Everything had suddenly come back into focus, and she realized she'd been somewhere else. Katie knew she'd been having a lot of these little lapses lately. Yesterday afternoon, for example, she'd been on her way out the back door to take out the trash. The next thing she knew, it was dark. She was in the same place, the screen door half open, her arm tired from holding the trash bag. She remembered how frightened she'd been, and how cold. When she'd seen the clock, her heart almost stopped. It had been 9 o'clock. Katie was sure that these lapses had something to do with Heath's plans for taking over her life. She felt less and less like herself lately. If that meant that Heath was getting stronger, she had to find a way to get free of him while she could still think clearly.
Calm down, Katie. You can get through this thing. You've got to. Let's try to work it out. He gets very angry when things that could prove his existence are brought back from the dream. He destroys them. Okay, what else? Why did he stay away so long after Jason's accident? And where else has he appeared other than in a dream? Well, there was that phone call, and the time he started the fire and burned the letter, and the time he destroyed his voice on the tape recorder. That's it. He doesn't show up in the dream for a long time after any of his appearances in the real world. It must be something to do with the energy he needs to get from me. Each time he touches the real world, he uses up energy. So he must have to wait till he's strong enough before he can come alive again, even in dreams. I think I'm beginning to understand. I'll just have to wait until the right moment. Then I'll try my plan. If I can hang on long enough.
Katie looked down at Jason alone in his room at the hospital, asleep in bed. His expression was calm and peaceful, almost serene.
Jason's so still. He almost looks like he's... No. Oh, stop being ridiculous, Katie. The nurse told me that his condition isn't critical. He just needs time and rest. Oh, Jason, I'm sorry. I feel like this is all my fault. I should have made you stay away from me. I knew what Heath was capable of. If I can't put a stop to Heath soon, you'll have to stay away from me. Oh, I wish you were awake and could hear me. I've got to go, Jason. But I'll see you soon. You'll see. I'll get rid of Heath. He'll be nothing but a bad dream. When all this is over, he'll be just like it never happened. We'll go out all the time and have lots of fun.
As Katie reached for the door handle, a violent nausea flooded through her body and stopped her dead in her tracks. She pressed her hands to her throat. Her lips seemed to be forcing themselves open.
When all this is over, Jason, we'll ditch her and have some really wild times.
Katie put her hand over her mouth, but she couldn't stop the gush of words. She struggled desperately to regain control.
We'll get together and find some real fun chicks. This one's Dullsville.
Katie whirled round and faced the mirror. For a horrifying instant, the face that stared back at her was Heath Granger's. Katie felt weak. Thank goodness no one had heard her. Bending over the sink, she rinsed the taste of Heath's voice out of her mouth. Fearfully, she raised her eyes to the mirror over the sink and sighed with relief as her own clear blue eyes stared back at her. Katie had thought that Heath couldn't come up with any terror worse than he already had. How wrong she was. Heath was getting stronger and stronger. The day after Heath's latest appearance, Katie received word that Jason's condition had worsened unexpectedly. He had slipped into a coma. Though Katie tried to reason that it couldn't be Heath's doing, she couldn't be sure. She could feel the pressure of Heath's growing demand for control. His voice started to come out of her mouth more often, and without any warning except a feeling of dizziness and nausea. Katie knew it was only a matter of time before someone else heard the voice. And then it happened. Katie would never forget that day. She and Raquel were in the cafeteria at a secluded table in the corner.
Hey, pal, pass that mustard over here, huh, and make it snappy. I haven't got all day to sit here and wait.
Wow, that's terrific. Do you do any other voices?
Katie wanted to hug Raquel for not being horrified. She wanted to hold on to every minute with Raquel that day. She knew it would be the last time they'd be together for a long time, maybe forever. Katie couldn't predict what things Heath might say or do. She decided that now was the time to go home, and stay home. She wouldn't go back to school again. From then on, she ignored the ringing of the phone or doorbell. She was afraid of what might happen to her voice, or that Heath would telephone. Televisions and radios had remained disconnected since the time Heath had interrupted Psycho. Katie couldn't even read a book for fear that Heath would leap from the pages. Much of the time, Katie slept. She couldn't help it. But she didn't see Heath in her dreams. She wondered if he were gathering strength for a final challenge.
How much time do I have left? Will I be around to see the spring?
She was staring out of the window in her room when she felt the nausea that always came now when Heath appeared. But this time there was something different. This time there was a roaring in her ears. She was falling into a bottomless pit, and yet she was standing still at the same time. She fought to regain control, but she knew she was losing the battle.
It's no use, Katie. Do I have to explain it to you all over again? Things are going to be different now. Oh, I feel great. Never better. Pretty soon I can leave this dump out in the sticks for good. You know what I ought to do is drop in on some other dreams. Lots of different dreams. After all, why should a guy like me tie myself to just one girl?
Katie felt herself falling again as the roaring noise got louder. Then she realized she was sitting on the garage floor. It was the first time that she had gone to sleep and actually woken up in a different place. Katie cradled her head in her hands. What had happened just now, in the time between leaving her bedroom and coming to in the garage, was much, much worse than having Heath's words coming out of her mouth. This time, Heath's thoughts had been running in her mind.
This is the beginning of the end.
You're disgusting, Heath. Like a leech.
Katie wanted to be furious. As long as she could get mad, her spirit would keep up the will to fight. But it was hard to stay angry when she was so close to despair. Still, there was one chance left. Katie had a plan that would only work if Heath met her in a dream the way he used to, so that she could see him. And he had to meet her outside.
Trouble is, I haven't had a dream like that in quite a while. Wait a minute. How did I wind up out here in the garage? The book said you can't sleepwalk and dream at the same time. Well, then what happened? I can remember walking downstairs and coming out to the garage. Well, then I can't have been dreaming asleep. I must have been dreaming awake.
Katie began to lose all sense of time. She was no longer able even to stay on her feet. For a long time she lay stretched out on her bed in her rumpled clothes, drifting between waking and sleeping. Fragments of dreams whirled around her like dry leaves in gusts of wind. Some of them were Heath's dreams. Katie's and Heath's thoughts seemed to be fusing. It was as if they were TV channels being switched crazily around. Soon there would only be one mind, and Heath was fighting for control of it.
No, he's not going to win. If he does, I won't exist.
Katie knew she was winning, for now. She could feel her mind reclaiming itself, thoughts and memories locking together like pieces of a puzzle. But how long would it last? Katie could feel Heath's impatience growing. He was sapping her energy, but she knew that as long as she kept up the battle for control, Heath was confined. A prisoner who could only wander in her house and the grounds around it. He could never go beyond the road where the accident had happened. The accident which had blown him into this limbo land years ago.
I'll make a deal with you, Heath. Come and face me. Maybe you can win this fight, but it's going to take you a long time, and you won't like that. You can hardly wait to get out and infect the world with your presence. Face me now, and I promise it'll be a whole lot quicker. Come on, Heath. Can't you see you're struggling? I can keep this up a long time. Haven't you waited long enough already?
Katie sensed it was working. She felt Heath letting go of her thoughts.
Meet me on the porch, Heath. Let me be myself for 1 more hour, then you're free. No more fighting. It's like riding the Tilt-A-Whirl amusement park. Last chance coming up. 1 more twirl, hang a right, and go straight on forever. Don't even think of losing.
It took a while for the spinning feeling to calm down. But when it did, Katie realized she was back on the front porch. She had landed on her hands and knees. Katie could see the white lacy sundress covering her legs.
Hello, Heath.
Hello, Katie.
Thanks for being so understanding. I didn't want to go without having my last few moments all to myself. Of course, I knew you'd win in the end. You're much too clever for me. That medal around your neck, it's beautiful. Remember, Heath, you told me the medal was like you? The image of the jungle cat? Oh, how true that is. You are a jungle cat.
Yeah.
Could I have a closer look at it? Could you take it off so I can see it better?
Well, yeah, okay. Here.
I'd like to try it on. Can I go inside and see how it looks in the mirror?
What?
Before Heath could answer, Katie took the medal tightly in her hand and went inside. She ran through the house and slipped out the back door into the yard, heading for the open field behind the house. Beyond it was the main road, the road where Heath had had his motorcycle accident years ago, the road he couldn't cross. Soon Katie was crossing the field, wading through the waist-high grass. She kept the house between herself and Heath so he wouldn't be able to see her. She had to move fast before he became suspicious and came after her. Keeping the medal pressed in her hand, she told herself not to look back. But after a while, she had to see how far she'd gone. She turned around. Heath was quite far away, but she could still see him clearly. He was walking lazily toward the side of the house.
Heath, I'm disappointed in you. You're not suspicious yet. You haven't even gone inside to search the house. I guess you didn't think I'd try and run away. You probably don't think I have the nerve. Oh, Heath, you just don't know what I've got planned for you.
At that instant, Heath caught sight of her in the field, and their gazes locked.
Oh, no. Oh, I've got to get through this field. I've got to. Where's he gone? He's not following me. Of course. He won't bother coming after me on foot. He'll be on his motorcycle.
Katie could see the road clearly now, only a few yards away. She could hear Heath gaining on her. She knew he would reach her before she got to the road. Then she saw him. His face was twisted with madness, his eyes blazing. He was headed straight for her. Heath no longer cared that he still needed Katie's dreams to exist. He wasn't going to stop the motorcycle, grab her, and pull her back to the yard. The only thing he wanted now was to run her down, to kill her. Her feet touched the hard surface of the asphalt road. Heath was behind her on his shining, electric death beetle. He was only inches away.
Move, move, move! You're almost there! You're almost there!
And then Katie felt herself start to fall. As she stepped into the hole she saw too late to avoid. With a jarring thud, Katie hit the road and rolled, the medal still clutched firmly in her hand. The last thing she saw was the wheels of the motorcycle directly over her face.
Where am I? it. I'm okay. I'm in bed, and I'm back home. I made it. I'm going to be all right.
For the first time, Katie became aware of a searing pain in her right hand. She opened it quickly, and something fell onto the bedspread. Something charred and blackened and round. Katie stared at it. The cord was almost completely burned away, but on the face of the metal, Katie could still make out the scorched image of the jungle cat.
Dear Diary, I never saw Heath again after the night he disappeared in flames. I put the metal and what was left of the cord in a little wooden box, and I keep it under my bed. Jason got well. He's coming over tonight. I didn't lose Jason or Raquel or any of the other friends I'd made when Heath disappeared. I guess that proves they were here for me all along, and not because of any special powers Heath had. Raquel and I are very close, but we never speak of Heath. I think we both know there are some things too terrible to speak of, even between close friends. Was Heath just a figment of my imagination? Had I actually heard the stories about the vicious boy whose motorcycle burst into flames and pushed them into the background of my own memory, only to weave them into a fantasy of my own making? I'm sure that lots of people would believe Heath was just the creation of a frightened girl, afraid to find out who she really was, a girl who thought she didn't deserve to have fun and to have friends. I don't believe that. I was there. I'm not afraid to go to sleep anymore, but even after all this time, I am afraid to touch the little wooden box, afraid to shake it to see if there's anything inside that rattles. Of course, I never open the box to look at what's inside, just in case there's nothing there.
In Dream Date by Sinclair Smith, Katie was played by Barbara Barnes, and Heath by Jeff Harding. Raquel was played by Tony Barry, Jason by Michael McGee, and Freddie by William DeFries. Miss Fusco was played by Shelley Thompson, Mrs. Shaw by Liza Ross, Mr. Shaw by Garrick Hagan, and Mr. Preston by William Roberts. The narrator was Susanna Fellows. Others in the cast were Bridget Dooling, Cara Ellis, Natalie Lambert, and Jim Christian. Dream Date was adapted by Anne Rosenfeld, and the music and studio production was by John Mayfield. It was directed by Garrick Hagan. Dream Date was a Story Circle production for Scholastic Publications Limited.